I have been reading a lot of short stories and poetry and nonfiction lately, which is why I have not had a review up in over 2 weeks. I find it a lot easier to review fiction than I do to review something like a collection of poetry or a single short story or a piece of nonfiction. For this reason, I thought I would group together a few of the things I've read lately into a single video. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the poetry collections and one of the short stories that I've read, as well as show you a nonfiction book that I'm currently working on. So I don't have it with me because I borrowed it from the library. But earlier this week, I read The Door by Margaret Atwood, which is a collection of poetry published in the early 2000s, I believe. The Door was a great collection. I liked it so much that I actually picked up another collection of Margaret Atwood's poetry when I went back to the library to return that book. And I'm looking forward to reading that. The collection The Door had a lot to do with aging, the relationship between an aging couple, and the role, or I guess the experience, of those who identify as poets. Last week I ended up starting into a collection of Canadian short stories that I showed in my haul at the beginning of May from the book sale from Ink Lake. I read the very first short story in here, which is by Alistair MacLeod, or Alistair MacLeod. I think it's MacLeod. Alistair MacLeod, yes, that's correct. And it is called As Birds Bring Forth the Sun. Once there was a family with a Highland name who lived beside the sea, and the man had a dog of which he was very fond. She was large and grey, a sort of staghound from another time. And if she jumped up to lick his face, which she loved to do, her paws would jolt against his shoulders with such force that she would come close to knocking him down, and he would be forced to take 2 or 3 steps backward before he could regain his balance. And he himself was not a small man, being slightly over 6 feet and perhaps 180 pounds. It starts out as kind of a sweet story at first. A man who adopts a stray dog that appears on his property. At a young age, the dog is run over, and everyone suggests that he should euthanize it. He chooses not to, nurses this dog back to health. The dog grows to be enormous, has difficulty because of her size. She has difficulty mating, and so he assists and physically helps her to mate with a large male dog, and shortly afterwards the dog disappears and she goes and has puppies. And unfortunately, the next time that he sees his dog, she comes running across the field towards him, meets him on the beach, I believe. Because of her size, she knocks him over on the ground, and all her puppies misinterpret the actions of their mother, and they attack him and end up mauling him to death. It is a story about death, about a man who basically helped to create and coddled the thing that killed him. There are a couple layers to this story. It's actually told from the point of view of the grandsons of this man who has died, and now their father is dying, and they're trying to come to terms with his death, while at the same time trying not to think too much about death and trying to avoid it. There's lots of imagery of dogs throughout the short story. I'm looking forward to rereading it and seeing what more I can dig out of it, because I've just done one read and it was a very brief read, so I'll probably return to that story, see what else is in there. And then the next thing I've been reading is something that actually just arrived in the mail today, and this is Love Poems by Pablo Neruda. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but this is an author that I've seen quite a bit from around BookTube, and I've been wanting to check out some of his poetry, discover what his writing is like, and so I picked the cheapest collection I could find. This was $11 on Amazon, and I sat down and read it today. I really enjoyed it. I'll probably find some more writing by this author. My favorite poem in here comes on page 39. If You Forget, I actually put a little star in here. My favorite. It's short, so I think I'm just going to read it to you. Oh, I should mention that this collection is translated by Donald D. Walsh, and this is a New Directions paper book. I've never heard of this publishing company, but If You Forget Me. I want you to know one thing. You know how this is. If I look at the crystal moon, at the red branch of the slow autumn at my window, if I touch near the fire the impalpable ash or the wrinkled body of the log, everything carries me to you, as if everything that exists, aromas, light, metals, were little boats that sail toward those isles of yours that wait for me. Well now, if little by little you stop loving me, I shall stop loving you little by little. If suddenly you forget me, do not look for me, for I shall already have forgotten you. If you think it long and mad, the wind of banners that passes through my life, and you decide to leave me at the shore of the heart where I have roots, remember that on that day, at that hour, I shall lift my arms, and my roots will set off to seek another land. But if each day, each hour, you feel that you are destined for me, with implacable sweetness, if each day a flower climbs up to your lips to seek me, ah, my love, ah, my own. In me all that fire is repeated, in me nothing is extinguished or forgotten. My love feeds on your love, beloved, and as long as you live it will be in your arms without leaving mine. Yeah, that's my favorite one in the collection. I noticed a lot of imagery, plant imagery of roots to refer to love throughout this collection as a whole. One other thing that I've been reading is a library book I picked up, The Sense of Style, The Thinking Person's Guide to Writing in the 21st Century by Steven Pinker. And apparently he is the author of The Language Instinct and The Blake Slate. I don't know this author, but I was browsing my hometown library after not taking anything out of it for about a year or two, and I came across this. It is a style guide of sorts for nonfiction writing. So this is what I have been reading lately. It's not the entirety of what I've been reading lately. There are a couple of other books that I have on the go. I'm about 150 pages into James Baldwin's Another Country. That is a read that has been a long time coming, but I was really into it at first. Somehow I stalled. I will finish it, I'm just not in the mood to finish it right now, and I did read a couple chapters of a book by Elizabeth Hay called Garbo Laughs, about some friends who really love old movies. I do want to finish that one as well. And then I'm also reading Waking Up by Sam Harris, also stalled in that one. Yeah, so I'm all over the place with my reading right now. Hopefully I will finish something in the near future that I can indeed review, because I enjoy doing reviews, and that is the main thing that I want to do with my channel. But yeah, last couple weeks I've been a little off balance, I guess.